According to the Equality and Human Rights Commission, 3 in 4 people have experienced sexual harassment in the workplace. And in October 2024, there's going to be a strengthened requirement on employers to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace. So in this video, I'm going to tell you how you can prevent sexual harassment, what you can do to protect yourself as an employer, and indeed protect your team. Just a quick introduction to me. I'm Jenefer, I'm the founder of Silk Helix. We are a HR consultancy. We specialise in neurodiversity and all things HR and employment law. So in this one, we're focusing on sexual harassment. What can you do and what do you need to be doing in October to prove and demonstrate that as an employer, you are doing everything you can to prevent sexual harassment? Well, there's 5 things that you need to do, and I'm going to go through each of those 5 things in this video, and of course how we can help you with them if you need us to. The first one, make sure that you've got a policy. That policy needs to explain who's protected from sexual harassment, what people can do if they experience it or witness it, what policy procedure will be followed. That should be the disciplinary procedure, and making sure you're following the ACAS code. So even if you put a separate procedure in place for dealing with sexual harassment, you've got a separate policy, it's still got to follow the disciplinary procedure in terms of the ACAS code. So making sure that your policy complies with that, and crucially making sure people are aware of your policy. Absolutely pointless having a policy, download it from online or whatever you want to do, shove it in a drawer and pretend it's not there, or just go, oh no, it is there, nobody knows about it, but if somebody asks, we've got it. That policy is going to be absolutely useless to you. Your policy is just a starting point, and importantly, you need to make sure that people are aware of the policy. Which brings me on to point 2, which is an open culture where open communication is valued. So a culture where people can bring these things to somebody. They know who they can bring them to. It's a safe place to do that. They know they're going to be listened to. They know that their story is going to be heard and it's going to be protected, and that something's going to be done if they do bring this complaint. So that culture piece is really important, because again, your policy is going to be worth nothing if the actions of people just don't back up or support it. It's all very well writing down, oh yeah, report your allegations of sexual harassment to HR or to your manager, and then that person doesn't know what to do with it or doesn't do anything with it. We can then work to minimise the risk. This is the next step, that we minimise the risk. So we need to think about the times where sexual harassment may be more likely to occur. So when alcohol is in the situation, for example, lone working, how people work with clients or customers might also be something to be considering. Making sure that you've got a diverse workforce and that you're valuing diversity within the team. Again, all of these things are going to help to prevent sexual harassment by not putting people in situations where it can happen as far as is possible, having precautions in place, things that people can do should they feel unsafe, particularly around lone working, for example. And again, making sure that people know that this is being talked about. This is not going to be tolerated. It's that coming back to that open culture, that policy. All of these things build on each other to make sure that you're minimising that risk and preventing sexual harassment in your work environment. The next thing you really should be doing, and it's going to become essential from October this year to enable you to defend yourself as an employer, to say that you've done as much as you can, and that is awareness training. Making sure that all of your team have attended awareness training on what sexual harassment is. Making sure that not only does the person who is receiving the complaint recognise it, but actually the person who may be the victim is also recognising it. Some of these behaviours are so normalised that not everybody recognises that what they're witnessing or what they're experiencing is in fact sexual harassment. So we need to make sure we've done training so that people are aware that what they're experiencing or witnessing may be sexual harassment, and that your management team and the people receiving complaints are also aware of how to deal with it, how to respond, that they respond with, yes, that is sexual harassment. They recognise the behaviours, because some of them aren't always as obvious as we might think they are. And this training can expand out to bullying, harassment more widely and more generally, and be beneficial to the organisation anyway in terms of how we support people. And then making sure we also train the people who are responsible for the investigations and things to make sure that they've also had training, again, to more deeply recognise behaviours, recognising how somebody may present in an investigation situation, whether they're the perpetrator or the victim of sexual harassment, and how we can investigate sensitively these situations without also causing sort of greater alarm and difficulties within the work environment. And the final one is to make sure that you've actually got a process and it actually works. Because doing all this to raise awareness and telling people here's the policy and this is what we will do if you report sexual harassment, this is who you report it to, is all useless if somebody reports it and nothing happens. They don't get the outcome they expect, because very quickly people will realise that all of that was a sham, and actually once they report it, it's not going to come to anything, it's going to be ignored. So really important that you've got that process right, both from the point of view of the trust of your team, the trust of your employees, and also making sure that you are complying with the ACAS code on disciplinary and grievances. Even if you're calling this a separate process, it's got to follow that disciplinary procedure. If there's potential disciplinary outcomes to a perpetrator, whether that be a warning, potentially a dismissal for gross misconduct. So if we get that wrong, you've potentially got an unfair dismissal claim on your hands, but also the right to raise a grievance, and that's effectively what a complaint of sexual harassment is. It's treated as a grievance, whether we call it a grievance or not, it doesn't really matter, but that's the process we need to be making sure that we're following. And just a couple of other things to think about in terms of how we can support people and prevent these things: employee assistance programs or other types of therapy. I've got a link in my description to therapy finders who offer access to therapists via employers, beyond which an EAP often will do. These can be specialist, particularly when it comes to supporting people through really challenging situations. So providing that ongoing support, and bear in mind that sexual harassment, there may be a criminal element to this, it may be a reporting to the police situation, and again that can be really difficult, not only for the person who's experienced it, but anyone that's witnessed it, or indeed the person who's investigating it as well. So being able to access and seek that support. And of course there's a number of other organisations that specialise in supporting victims of sexual harassment and other similar situations, and it's worth making people aware of those so that they're getting the right support if they have unfortunately experienced this in the workplace. And as the employer, you're demonstrating you are doing everything you can, not just from the point of view of preventing an employment tribunal, reducing your risk, but also making sure that you keep your team safe and you've got a safe working environment, because you will get a more motivated, happy workforce who will stay with you if you are doing the right things when it comes to things like bullying and harassment. And I've got other videos where I talk more widely around bullying and harassment, so you can access those. If you want more details on things like policies, trainings, there's details in the description below of how to work with us, or check out our website for more information so you can get in touch. And of course, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss a single video and indeed a single update to employment law.